With over 3,000 characters in the Marvel Universe, it's easy to get lost. So here at Marvel, we've created families of comic books to give readers a place where they belong. The X-Men are a family of titles with 9 monthlies and a host of limited series. Everybody's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is a family too. Then there's the Avengers family, the Punisher family, and our 2 newest families, 2099 and the New Warriors. But one family at Marvel stands apart from the rest. It was born in darkness and baptized in blood. A family of superheroes who put their lives on the line, not against supervillains, but supernatural villains. They patrol a darker alley of the Marvel Universe, a dead end where the penalty for failure doesn't stop with death. You could say this family began in 1963 when Stan Lee and Steve Ditko introduced us to the master of the mystic arts, Dr. Strange. Or you could say it began in 1972 with Ghost Rider, Tomb of Dracula, and Werewolf by Night. But the Midnight Suns really began with the rise of the Midnight Suns in 1992. The new Ghost Rider was joined by 4 other titles: Spirits of Vengeance, teaming up new Ghost Rider with his predecessor John Blaze, Morbius, The Living Vampire, Darkhold, the Book of Sins, and the Nightstalkers. The Midnight Suns were unique, a group of comic books that revolved around each other like an ongoing crossover. Now, in the ultimate evolution of the family group, the Midnight Suns are breaking new ground again. This October, they'll be joined by Dr. Strange to form their own separate group, complete with a unique family imprint, logo, and distinct cover design, identifying them as a unit. The new group is designed to be racked together in comic shops, which will make it easier for fans to find a Midnight Suns comic book. The new Midnight Suns titles will have stronger continuity, making for a more exciting, tightly knit subsection of the Marvel Universe. New editors and new creative teams will reinvigorate Doctor Strange and the rest of the Midnight Suns. Fans can get in on the ground floor of this new concept. It's the natural evolution of family groups like the X-Men and Spider-Man. And while the Midnight Suns may be the first distinct family group at Marvel, it won't be the last. It all begins with the Siege of Darkness, a crossover which will shake up the Midnight Suns, leaving at least one dead and some changed forever. So say goodbye to the safe, familiar side of the Marvel Universe. You're about to enter a world where the forces of darkness rule, where the heroes can look more like an enemy than a friend, and where the penalties for failure can be far worse than death. Can you see it? The mist is rising.
Midnight Suns has always been conceived as the dark side of the Marvel Universe, that, you know, you have the sort of day-lit world that heroes like the Avengers and the Hulk work in. And what the Midnight Suns deals with is the unknown, the things that are hidden, the things that people don't believe in, the things that are occult in nature. And it's sort of a darker, more twisted alley of the Marvel Universe.
That's what we're doing with the trade dress. We're drawing people's attention to the fact that we've got this family. They're going to be working closely together. We've got this specific style of book that, you know, if they like one, maybe they can look at another and, you know, enjoy that too.
Where you normally see where it says Marvel Comics, we're going to have an emblem, so when you see it on the shelf, you go, oh, there's a Midnight Suns book.
Now is definitely a good time to pick up the Midnight Suns line because, well, in some ways we're starting fresh. A lot of the characters are going to be going off in new directions. As a new team, they can certainly pick up with the new adventures.
The new Midnight Suns group kicks off with the Siege of Darkness, a 17-part crossover in October and November. The Siege tells 2 consecutive stories in all the books, including Marvel Comics Presents, and ending with Midnight Suns Unlimited number 4. Let's let Ghost Rider writer Howard Mackey tell us about it.
We've been talking about and leading up to the crumbling dimensional walls ever since the inception of the Midnight Suns books. This is the payoff. We've been talking about these walls being weakened and crumbling. Well, now we have the crack in the dimensional wall, and first thing that comes out is the shadow side, and it takes form in in a dark mist that starts seeping out, and within that mist are the Lilin, and they're home to see Mommy.
The shadow side, the dark mist, erupts out of Cypress Hill Cemetery and starts taking over, and the Lilin in their new dimension that's inhabiting Earth starts trying to take over Earth's dimension. And so the Midnight Suns decide, okay, now this is the time where they've got to get together, they've got to bond together and make a concerted effort to fight these dark, evil forces. But the thing is, even if they succeed, something even worse is going to come out in November to test them.
At least one major Midnight Sun character will die in the Siege of Darkness. There may be more than one that dies, and there may be some that are changed so drastically that they might wish they were dead.
The big news about the new Midnight Suns is that Doctor Strange is joining the group. Any comments, Evan?
The Midnight Suns are the supernatural superheroes of the Marvel Universe, and how can you have a line of supernatural superheroes without having Doctor Strange involved?
Strange is the perfect character to do stories about where you don't know quite where you're standing, and that can be exciting. Witness the new Sanctum Sanctorum, which I don't want to give it all away because I want you to come on in and take a look inside and get scared with the rest of us.
When you walk through his new sanctum, you may be walking on the ceiling, and there's no explanation. It's a magical place.
And if you go wandering off where he wants you to be, you could suddenly step into nihility, where you don't exist. Or you could step into the shrieking masks of Kitterak and not know how to get back out. The home base becomes a very dangerous place.
Hey, Evan, what about the rumor that Doctor Strange won't be the Sorcerer Supreme anymore?
He's already been saying for a few months now, that he's not Sorcerer Supreme. Then who is? And that's something that will be settled during the Siege of Darkness.
To find out what the Siege of Darkness means to the rest of the Midnight Suns, let's talk to Greg Wright.
In the upcoming crossover, unfortunately for Morbius and everybody else, because he's got this Lilin blood, he's got a kinship towards the enemy. And that kinship grows stronger once they enter this black mist that is spewing forth from the dimension, which is going to cause a lot of problems for his Midnight Suns brothers and sisters, because since he's got two kinships, so there may be some traitorous actions going on, and he may have to redeem himself, and there's a possibility that there may be some deaths of the Midnight Suns resulting from Morbius's kinship to the Lilin.
Chris Cooper edits Nightstalkers as of issue number 14. Chris, how is Blade going to deal with his supernatural teammates?
This is really the first time he's going to be forced to work with all the other Midnight Suns, and they can't stand him. They hate his guts. He's alienated all of them. He's killed some of them. So there's going to be a lot of tension, and especially between him and Modred, because the two of them are going to be sort of forced to work side by side, and the two of them practically ripped each other's guts out in the Midnight Massacre. So there's going to be a lot of animosity towards Blade from all quarters.
Chris also writes Darkhold. Chris, we heard that Louise discovers some things she shouldn't.
She's always been the brain of the group. She's the one who's been figuring out what's going on. She is going to find out some very important facts about Vicky, about another Midnight Sun, about exactly what's happening and being done to the Midnight Suns during the Siege of Darkness, and all of this information could prove very dangerous for her to know. What's going on between Sam and Vicky? Well, there's a little sexual tension going on there, and let's just say a page of the Darkhold is going to play a role in resolving exactly who wants to be with whom.
Which brings us to Ghost Rider and Blaze. What have you got planned for the Spirits of Vengeance, Howard?
The medallion is going to answer all of the questions that the readers have been asking for the past 4 years. It is the source of everything in the Ghost Rider universe. And it will answer questions for Ghost Rider as far as his origin, Blaze, a character by the name of Vengeance.
Speaking of Vengeance, who is he? And what's the deal with Mephisto?
Don't believe everything you've seen till this point. Don't believe what you thought you saw as his origin. And never, ever believe Mephisto. because Mephisto doesn't tell the truth.
There are also big changes in store for John Blaze. Let's let Ghost Rider artist Ron Garney fill us in.
He gets half of his body blown away, and since he is like a channel for Hellfire, he had to have an armament, like a cyborg type armament put on half of his body to contain the Hellfire. Now people are going to look at the book, they're going to say, wow, what the hell happened to him? And they're going to pick it up, you know, and want to read it.
Let's say this is John Blaze before the Blaze Limited Series. This is John Blaze by the time the Blaze Limited Series begins. And this, stomped on, is John Blaze by the time we get all through the Blaze Limited Series. And the question is, does he have the wherewithal to drag himself back up from the bottom of the barrel and everything he's been through and sort of pull himself back together?
Once this huge crossover is done, once they've dealt with the big problem of dealing with Lilith and Zarthos and Centurios and Fallen and the Blood, they're going to be going out to avenge or track down supernatural problems. We're definitely planning on doing a Vengeance limited series. There's possibility for a Blade limited series. There's going to be Hearts of Darkness Part 2, which is the bookshelf we did 2 years ago, Ghost Rider, Wolverine, Punisher. That's coming out in December.
What about the rumors of Ghost Rider 2099?
Ghost Rider 2099 is definitely going to happen. And yeah, it's in the works right now. And no, I can't tell you anything about it.
There you have it. A new Midnight Suns family. A new way of thinking about Marvel Comics family groups. And the supernatural crossover, The Siege of Darkness. Any last comments, Dave?
It's not going to be smooth. It's going to be time to fasten your seatbelts.
Injustice makes him boil, evil makes him burn, and then Danny Ketch becomes the Ghost Rider. Flame Glow Ghost Rider, Blaze and Vengeance ride in the name of justice. Whip chains, hidden projectiles, and with flaming discs and a ghost fire gun, they destroy scum like Zarthos and Skinner. If evil makes you burn, ride with new Flame Glow Ghost Rider, defender of the innocent. Cycles come with figures, other figures sold separately.